The autumn season offers so many pleasures, like seeing Japanese maples at the peak of their beauty, tasting fresh toasted pecans, and seeing all of the color that surrounds us. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Join me next as we explore some of the colorful beauties this season has to offer. When the fall season rolls around, it's difficult to ignore all the pleasures it brings. At every turn, there's a gorgeous tree dazzling us with its beauty. And at the farmer's market, well, we can see some of our favorite foods showing up, preparing us for the holiday. Today, I'll take you on a trip to Morningside Gardens and Nursery, where you'll be introduced to some of the most magnificent Japanese maples you've ever seen. Not only that, we'll visit White Flower Farm in New England, where the fall colors are absolutely breathtaking. And I also have a recipe I can't wait to share with you that's perfect for the fall season. I'll show you how to bring the aroma of lavender to your laundry and share with you the secrets of creating an unforgettable fall arrangement that'll bring life to your home. This time of year, Japanese maples are at their prime. When we come back, we'll get a closer look into these gorgeous plants. So don't go away. Japanese maples are a real showstopper this time of year, and Morningside Gardens and Nursery has a very impressive collection. Ewa Nelson has been collecting Japanese maples for over 20 years and has assembled quite a collection. Ewa, was it color that first attracted you to Japanese maples?
Well, color was certainly one of the main things that would attract me to the Japanese maples. Of course, there are other characteristics, the different growth habits, the dwarfs, tree type, the spreading horizontal branching.
So many different forms.
Yes.
You know, what's so nice about color in the fall is that you can, particularly in a garden like this, enjoy the gradual change of color over a long period of time with such variety.
Yes, and then in a garden where you have a number of different cultivars of Japanese maple, you have a wide range of colors over an extended period. Some of these have already dropped their leaves completely, really, and others are still green and have not yet changed color. So it's kind of interesting to look from day to day and see the changes with the fall season with the colors in Japanese maple. And the same thing applies in the spring. There's a long season of the different cultivars leaf out with the different colors and different colors even on the same leaf in the spring. And it's quite a fascinating plant to see the color in the different seasons.
What has kept you collecting Japanese maples?
Well, the tremendous variation, the genetic variation in the plant families. And so there are dwarfs that are probably 4 feet across and 3 or 4 feet high, to the tree forms that can get even as much as 25, 30 feet. And then there, in the connection with the leaves, very small leaves, very refined, delicate looking leaves to quite large leaves in some of the tree types.
They're really the perfect plant for someone who has limited space.
Yes. In fact, there is a Japanese maple probably for any kind of a space that a person might have.
Out of your collection, is there a particular Japanese maple you'd recommend if someone wanted a splash of color in their garden?
Well, Moonfire is certainly a selection that could be recommended for this area. And it's one of Mr. Wolf's introductions from Pennsylvania. Moonfire, yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And you can see that the leaves look pretty good in view of the hot, dry summer we had.
You have a marvelous collection here. Do you have any favorites?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because at different times I have a different favorite.
I see, right. Depends on the week.
There's such a range of characteristics and nuances of color that it changes from week to week, really.
Certainly, yeah.
This one here, for example, is my favorite first thing in the spring because this leaves out ahead of everything else in the collection. And interestingly, too, oftentimes it gets froze back with late frost, and the leaves will blacken, but the plant has enough vigor, so for many years it keeps coming back and does great.
One of the most attractive qualities of the Japanese maple is that many of the varieties are small, so they're ideally suited for those of us who have limited space. They offer an opportunity to enjoy some of the most glorious colors of fall. One of the best places to treat yourself to dazzling colors is New England, and we'll pay a visit after this. This is a beautiful time of year, particularly up here in New England, where the trees are beginning to shed their leaves, but not so quietly. All of this riotous color is certainly less than sober. The trees put on each of these leaves in the spring, and after shading and protecting us from the summer sun, they bid their glorious farewell, giving the trees a chance to rest before the cycle starts all over again. As they slip off into their winter sleep, I had an opportunity to visit with a man very well acquainted with these noble giants. David Smith is English by birth, but he spent a long time on this side of the pond. He's the former director of horticulture at White Flower Farm in Litchfield, Connecticut.
Alan, coming to New England back in 1954 was really a great challenge for me to come from England, where you don't get these marvelous reds in the fall foliage as you do here, especially the red maples. The New England scenery is just great anyway, with the hills. People come here in their droves just to see the scarlet red maples.
David, why is New England so unique?
Well, I think it's the diversity of the species in the woodlands here. If you go through the woods, you see so many different species that you may not find in other parts of the country.
So having been gardening in New England since the 50s, have you adopted any favorite Native American trees?
Oh, there's a lot that I really love. The sugar maple is the outstanding one. We have to recognize that, and almost everybody will go for the sugar maple in a big way. And there are many new cultivars that are coming along now that do perfectly well, that they're obtainable from good nursery sources. Things would be rather dull if we had greens the whole year round.
Yes, it would be.
And the colors really tend to start in August, and you get the less and less chlorophyll being produced. And I think the other colors that are there without us seeing them tend to accentuate. Then we see these brilliant colors coming along, some reds and oranges.
With all of this beauty around here, there's certainly plenty of inspiration for planting a tree. And you know, this time of year, it's always a bit staggering, if not poignant, for me to think of all of the autumns a tree will experience. They really are silent witnesses to history. Every season brings its own special beauty, reminders for me of things I want to plant. For instance, in the spring I see daffodils and I want to plant them. But actually the fall is the time to get them in the ground, not the spring. But this time of year, it's the trees that dazzle me. And I'm in luck because it's a great time of year to get them in the ground. One of my favorite families of trees is the maple. Many of them are fast growing. They can have spectacular fall color. And when it comes to the sugar maple, the syrup can make pancakes taste out of this world. The fall display of sugar maples has been made famous by postcards and calendars from New England. If you decide you want to plant one of these, you need to realize it's one of the slowest growing members of the maple family, and they require good drainage. If you're looking for something smaller, you might try one of the Oriental cousins. These Japanese maples come in an array of shapes and sizes, both in terms of the form of the plant and the leaf. Probably the fastest growing member of the family is the silver maple. It has beautiful golden yellow leaves in the fall. Because it grows so fast, it can become brittle and break up in high winds, which cuts into its life expectancy. Probably the most popular of them all is the red maple, because it'll grow in so many different places and it's so easy to grow. If you decide to plant one, you might try one of the improved cultivars. You see, the plant breeders have been busy and they've made some wonderful selections. This one is called Red Sunset, and every year it always has beautiful red foliage. It never lets me down. You can enjoy all of these fall colors inside your home as well. Here's a way to arrange some of the best colors of the season. You can do this simply by combining a couple of easy-to-care-for houseplants in an arrangement. The two I've chosen bring the best of foliage and bloom together. and keep maintenance at a minimum. I have this croton for its incredibly vibrant foliage, and this Kalanchoe for its long-lasting delicate flowers. Now, whenever I combine plants in an arrangement, I always try to choose those that require similar growing conditions. Both of these need at least 4 hours of direct sunlight or 12 hours of artificial light a day. And when it comes to watering, just try to keep the soil moist. When arranging these, I like to keep it simple. I begin by lining a basket with a garbage bag. This keeps me from making a mess when I water. And then I simply put the croton toward the back and place the Kalanchoes toward the front. This usually just takes about 3 plants. But I usually keep a smaller one on standby just in case I need to fill in a hole like this. See how nicely the color of the flower complements the colors in the leaf of the croton. As a finishing touch, I'm accenting the arrangement with some winter squash and gourds. The great thing about this is that it only takes a few minutes to put together, and it'll last for 4 to 5 weeks or more. Coming up, we'll step into my garden for a look at some of my fall favorites. Don't go away. In today's show, we're sampling some of the best the fall has to offer. We've already been to New England and seen those gorgeous trees. You know, this is a time of year I like to slow down a bit in the garden and enjoy the bounty. I'm always asked about many of the plants that I grow in my garden, and I'm always eager to share some of these new introductions that I find along the way of my travels. You know, people are always asking me about the plants I grow in my garden from season to season. One of my favorites for the fall is the chrysanthemum. Today, hybridizers have developed such a wide range of colors for mums. I can't resist planting some in my garden. You can find mums in various shades of pink, purple, red, yellow, bronze, orange, and white. With so many colors to choose from, you just can't go wrong with these beauties. In the early fall, I like to go out into the garden and harvest the last bits of the summer garden to bring indoors to savor just a bit longer. You know, I like to cut berries and dried flowers for arrangements. And there are other ways to capture the fragrance and beauty of the summer throughout the fall. Just because the seasons change doesn't mean you have to miss out on some of those signature summertime pleasures. Making the shift to fall is just an opportunity to bring a touch of summer indoors. Like using these flowers and berries for drying for fall arrangements. But let me show you a couple of other simple ways to do this. Let's start with one of my favorites, lavender. The next time you launder your bed linens, just add 1/4 teaspoon of concentrated lavender oil to the final rinse cycle. I can't imagine a better way to get a good night's sleep. You know, aromatherapists even recommend lavender for easing tension and anxiety. If you enjoy the flavor fresh herbs can bring to our foods as much as I do, then preserving them for fall and winter cooking makes a lot of sense. Drying herbs such as this flat-leaf Italian parsley, basil, sage, and rosemary is a time-honored method of preservation. It's simple and really doesn't take much time to do. You can simply hang bundles of herbs in a cool, dry place until they dry. The only disadvantage here is if it takes too long, they can become dusty, and light can break down some of their flavor. I prefer an approach that gets the job done a little faster. I simply gather the herbs in the early morning, wash them and pat them dry, and then break off the leaves and spread them on a cookie sheet or recycled aluminum trays like these. I'll leave them in the oven on low heat, not to exceed 90 degrees, for several hours, but it's important to check them regularly. Once all of the moisture is driven from the leaves, just crush or crumble them like this, and then store them in airtight jars and place them in a cool, dark place. This makes good use of small jars you might otherwise throw away. It's a form of recycling. I like to label and date them, and you'll be amazed at just how much it takes to fill a jar once the herbs have dried. It's important to remember when using dried herbs in cooking, it only takes half as much of a dried herb as it does when it's fresh. You see, in the drying process, you concentrate all of the essential oils. Drying your own herbs will not only save you money, but it's a great way to enjoy the flavor of your garden in every season. So whether you add the aroma of lavender to your laundry or fresh herbs to your cooking, these are just a couple of ways that don't require much time for you to enjoy a touch of the summer garden all year long. I don't know about you, but fall is about favorite foods, and right about now I'm getting a little hungry. We'll step into the kitchen next. Toasted pecans have always been a favorite in my household, and now they can be one in yours too. Here's the savory recipe. If you're like me, this time of year you're probably having more friends and relatives around, and it's always nice to have on hand something to munch on. Over the years I've found that my toasted pecans always get a big response. The pecan is a North American tree that can grow to majestic heights, and it produces a fruit or nut that is very delicious. This is the season when pecans, like so many other nuts, are most plentiful. If you don't have much time and you want something tasty, this recipe can be thrown together in a hurry, and it works equally well with almonds. Start by pouring 4 cups of pecan halves in a large baking pan, spreading them out evenly. Then melt ½ a cup of butter or margarine in a saucepan and add 4 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, 1 tablespoon of garlic salt, and for a little zip, 1/2 teaspoon of Tabasco sauce. Stir the liquid mixture and drizzle it over the nuts. Now I'm stirring them just a little to make sure they're completely coated. Then I'll put them in the oven for 30 minutes at 300 degrees, and I'll stir them periodically to make sure they toast uniformly. Now I just pour them onto some paper towels so that any excess butter can be absorbed. Once they've cooled, you can keep them fresh by storing them in an airtight container. I think these are a nice alternative to all of the sweets we have around this time of year. And the way I see it, if you have to go nuts during the holidays, this is the best way to do it. Those toasted pecans are so good and so worth waiting for. You know, the fall is a great time to kick back and enjoy some of the simple pleasures. When things slow down in my garden, I can turn my attention to fun projects like creating a little tutor like this, support for plants. If you'd like some information on how to create one of these or any of the other topics in today's show, just check out my website. That's pallansmith.com. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us, and every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.